We're going to worship because Josh is doing something. Yeah. Alright, guys.
Hi. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Is this on? Nope. There it is. Why don't you stand on up? Before we get started, we've done this song before, but I want to teach it to y'all because it's more. So I'm going to sing a part, and y'all can sing it back to me. Can y'all do that? Somebody said no, and that's hilarious. So this song's called World Outside Your Window, and in the chorus there's a part that goes, oh. Now y'all sing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. Nice. All right, now part 2. Oh. Nice. Part 3. Oh. All right, now all together. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh. 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 Y'all sound awesome. Give yourself a hand clap. It's an anthem in the making. Can you feel the stars rise? Can you hear the generations getting louder over time? Every son and every daughter singing out into the night. It's not time to die. Don't you dare hide your light. There's a world outside your window, so don't let it pass you by. Lift your hands to the heavens, lift your voice to the sky. Praise the Lord of all creation, let His name be lifted high. Sing it along. Strong people singing it all. I can hear the world awakening. Oh, the sound is heavenly. Every tribe and every nation singing Jesus, I believe. And it's not time to be silent. Don't you dare hide tonight. There's a world outside your window. So don't let it pass you by. Lift your hands to the heavens, lift your voice to the sky. Praise the Lord of all creation. Let His name be lifted high. Sing it. Oh, 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 oh. In the blink of an eye, death and all our sin nowhere inside. For the Lord, He is alive. See walks reaching from the dead of the night. Every captive feel, every chain left behind. Have you ever seen such a beautiful sight? All the world coming alive. Come on, sing it. See the world light up one at a time. See the sun goes down. We live in a death and all our sin. The world is alive. See the world. Don't you dare hide your love. There's a world outside your window, so don't let it pass. Lift your hands to the heavens, lift your voice to the sky. Praise the Lord of all creation. Let His name be lifted high.
These are the days, stirring the faith has begun. I see so much still uncertain, and the best is Jesus, not done with me, doing a new thing, doing a new thing.
I see a way, seated my justice in grace. Now get me over to Jesus. Oh, Satan is back to grace.
Doing a new thing, doing a new thing. I still believe. Never gonna give up, you never give up, you never give up on me. Your love is never gonna give up, you never give up, you never give up on me. Your love is never gonna give up, you never give up, you never give up on me. I know, I know. Love is never gonna give up. You never give up. You never give up on me. Your love is never gonna give up. You never give up. You never give up on me. Your love is never gonna give up. You never give up. Give up. Jesus, you're done with me. Doing a new thing, doing a new thing. Lord, I still believe. Doing
I've tried so hard to see it. Took me so long to believe it. But you choose someone like me to carry your victory. She could never get you what we don't deserve it. You take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Now I can finally see it, teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Oh, this is my victory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered. Declare this one more time. When I lift my voice and shout. Every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. And I lift my voice and shout, every wall crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. And when I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. You are my champion. Giants falling, you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, I am who you say I am. Happy with confidence, I'm seated. Heavenly place undefeated. By the power of your name, I'm seated. Heavenly place undefeated. One who is conqueror. My champion, giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won, I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I'm seated in the heavenly place undefeated. By the power of your name, I'm seated in the heavenly place undefeated. With the one who has conquered it all. Jesus, we love you tonight. God, we thank you that you've crowned us with confidence. That we are who you say we are, not what your friends say we are, not what the world says we are, but what you say we are. You say we are fearfully and wonderfully made. God, we stand in confidence tonight, knowing that you are a champion. God, we thank you for your presence in this place. God, we thank you for your presence in our lives. God, we pray that your presence lies in this place tonight as Matt brings the word. As we go into our small groups and our discussions. God, I thank you for everything that you're doing in this place, everything that you will do, everything that you have done. God, I thank you for tonight. I thank you for this space. I thank you for these awesome young people that have come to worship you and to grow deeper in a relationship with you. God, I thank you for all this. It's in your precious and holy name, everybody said. Amen.
All right, so I get to kick off a new series. And it's the first time I've gotten to do that. We'll take the map up. but I get to kick off a new series. So anybody know what month it is? What happens in March? March Madness, right? I'm disappointed that no one yelled Shamrock Shake season, but that's a whole nother conversation, right? Nothing better than a good gaming. Evan and I and Dave don't agree on when you should start your Christmas music, but we do agree on the Shamrock Shake. Very, very important. Shamrock Shake is a must. If you haven't been to McDonald's, you know who does have a good mint shake? I hate to say it. Arby's. I just want you to know that theirs is good too. Theirs are made with Andy's mint. So I gotta put my old man eyes on here for a second. Sorry. But we're officially in March, right? March Madness started for the boys in the Big Ten today. The Big Ten tournament starts. We're playing right now, right? So we're starting a new series called Sixth Man, right? Sixth Man. So you just look at that screen behind me. But the Sixth Man. Now, if you have never played a sport, maybe you don't understand the importance of the Sixth Man. And really, you don't just have the Sixth Man. You have, like in football, you have the 12th man. Like Seattle and Texas A&M fans, they're the 12th man. And you always have that sub. You need that sub that does things really well. And usually that sub is a specialist, right? The sub is like a defensive guy, or I can remember when I was in 8th grade, my high school team made it to the Final Four in my state, in Michigan, where I grew up. They made it to the Final Four in basketball. And we were in this crazy Final Four, like one guy off each of the other 3 teams in the Final Four made it to the NBA. Crazy, right? And so they all made it at different times. Two of them didn't really have very good careers. The other one, actually, as a freshman in college, lost to my Indiana Hoosiers in the '87 national championship. His name was Derek Coleman. But they had a 6th man. In my high school, our 6th man was our quarterback from our football team. Our quarterback was 5'9". Now you have to understand, my high school team that year was really strange. They were all like 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". There was like, and then when one guy that came off the bench, he was 6'4", and everybody else was like pretty much 6'2", 6'3". But our quarterback came off the bench. His name was Jeff Scorfar. He's actually the high school football coach at my high school now, and he was 5'9", and just this little feisty dude. And his job was just to come in and play defense and lock down and play defense. That was his role. We had other guys that could score the basketball. His job was to come off the bench and take their best player and take him out of the game. That was his job. A lot of times, the 6th man has a specific role, right? Tonight I want to talk to you about a specific role that everybody should have. You're going to have different 6 men that play different roles in your life. Tonight I want to talk to you about 6 men who play the role of accountability. Some of you guys have heard of King David. Everybody heard of King David, right? If you grew up in church at all, you know who King David is. If you did grow up in church, you probably heard a story about David and Goliath, or something like that. So I want you to think about this. David was described. Does anybody know how he was described in the Bible? What? A man after God's own heart. So David was described as a man after God's own heart, but we're catching him in a moment in his life where he was not after God's own heart. He was after his own devices. We're catching him right after he had just had an affair with a woman who was married. He was married. And he tried to do all these different things because during that affair, the woman became pregnant with his child. And he tried all these different things to try to make it look like it wasn't him. And there were a lot of things that David did that were wrong that nobody was holding him accountable on prior to. He was the king. He should have been near the battlefront. He shouldn't have been in his home where he was. All right? For all of this to happen. There were so many different things that set up to this point. So we're catching him, and eventually he gets so frustrated, he actually sends Bathsheba's husband Uriah to the front. And he was a captain in the battle. He knows he'll be murdered. He knows he's going to die. He knows if he puts him on the front lines, he's not going to survive it. So that's where we pick up this story. David has now taken Bathsheba as his wife, and the temple prophet, and we'll explain a little bit more of that, was a guy by the name of Nathan, who had known David for years. And from all accounts, they were really good friends, and I'll explain that more in a little bit too. But here's where we pick up our story. It's in 2 Samuel chapter 12, verses 1 through 12. And it says this. But God was not at all pleased with what David had done and sent Nathan to David, and Nathan said to him, there were two men in the same city, one rich, the other poor. The rich man had huge flocks of sheep, herds of cattle. The poor man had nothing but one little female lamb, which he had bought and raised. It grew up with him and his children as a member of his family. It ate off of his plate and drank from his cup and slept in his bed. It was like a daughter to him. One day a traveler dropped in on the rich man. He was too stingy to take an animal from his own herd and flocks and make a meal for his visitor. So he took the poor man's lamb and he prepared the meal set before him. So you have to understand, Nathan is setting David up. He's like, this is what just happened. I just witnessed this. And David, the Bible says, exploded in anger. As surely as God lives, he said to Nathan, the man who did this ought to be lynched. He must repay for the lamb 4 times for his crime and his stinginess. Nathan looks at David, and this is where the accountability piece comes in. And he says, you are that man. And here's what God, the God of Israel, has said to you. I made you king over Israel. I freed you from the fist of Saul. I gave you your master's daughter and other wives to have and to hold. I gave you both Israel and Judah. And if that hadn't been enough, I'd have gladly thrown in much more. So why have you treated the word of God with brazen contempt, doing this great evil? You murdered Uriah the Hittite, then took his wife as your wife. Worse, you killed him with an Ammonite sword. And now because you treated God with such contempt and took Uriah the Hittite's wife as your own, killing and murder will continue to plague your family. So what do you think about that? And I want you to understand, when David talked about that, David kind of spoke his own punishment when he said the man should do this and the man should do this. I want you to think, though, about who Nathan was addressing, right? David had the power to change Uriah's orders and have Uriah shipped off to the front line so he would die. And Nathan is confronting the king who's already killed one person. Why would he not kill another? Why wouldn't he? Why would he not do that? Nathan is addressing the king of Israel. He spoke a hard truth that God told him to speak. Here's the reality. We all need 6 men like Nathan in our life, or 6 women, or 6 person, whatever you choose, how you want to describe it. So I want to tell you something. We're going to show a quick video tonight. There's a group of guys that I've been watching for the last couple of years, and they're here tonight, and some of you may walk the halls with them. I want to tell you before we start this, they're not perfect. Even after this video, they're going to make mistakes. Think about how I said David was described. A man after God's own heart. He had an affair. He had somebody murdered. All of those things. But at the end of his life, he was so right with the Lord that's why he was described. So we got a group of senior guys who've been together for a few years, doing small group, doing life together. I want you to check out their story on the screen. They were really good, don't you think? It was great. Very impressive. Josh is getting it. We're going to volume up in just a second. Josh is breaking things. He's so upset about the sound on the video. There it is.
I'll say that every time we meet, it's always for a part of the week, and it's just about fellowship and just being around people who are like-minded, who love Christ as much as you do. It's just always an opportunity to grow every week with each other.
As we're going through the years of age that we're going through, I feel like it's super important, and just through our lives, to have people who are like each other and peers to grow with and just be in community with and go to them and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I need help with, this is what I'm growing in, and just to have that accountability is a huge, huge thing.
For me, it's a safe place. It's somewhere where I can go and be myself and be accepted for whoever I am. And like everyone here is so like helpful with everything, whatever I come to, like if I have any problems or anything. And yeah, it's just a safe place for me.
I would say accountability in this group is about coming every Tuesday night and describing to the rest of the group what you feel like you may be struggling with and how you think you can maybe help improve your relationship with Christ. What do you feel like you may be failing at, and like just opening up to your brothers and having them just give you advice and tell you where you can improve.
Coming on Tuesday nights, just being around all these guys, like that accountability aspect of keeping our faith strong and being able to help each other grow, like each and every day we're together. You know, just each and every week, it's like it's better and better. I know for me and the rest of these guys, like, I feel like my faith grows more and more each and every week. So I feel like just being around them, just holding each other accountable in that aspect helps me grow a lot.
Yeah, there was a time when early on in the group when one of us opened up about a struggle that we were having. And then it was literally every single one of the guys was like, yeah, I'm struggling with the exact same thing. And it just came to be something that when we showed up, that we all talked about how we did that week with the struggle that we were having. Like, were we tempted with something? Were we turning to the wrong thing? And I know for me in my life, I came to a couple of guys in the group and confessed that I had fallen back into old habits and that I was struggling with something, and two of them sat down and had a hard conversation with me, and then they helped me grow and they helped me get out of that. And it was in the perfect time because I didn't know who else to talk to. And when I found this group and how close we were, it was so cool to see that like I could go to peers and get help and have them be there for me.
Yeah, a big part of what we tried to do with this was we knew that we only had a certain number of weeks, like we kind of were counting the days until we have to go to college. So a big part of what we're trying to do was make sure that even in the highs and the lows of whatever we're going through, making sure that each of us asks each other, like, where's God in your life right now? Like, some of us are doing great right now, some of us aren't doing that hot, but the biggest point was to just make sure God is always in your front vision.
And with the accountability thing, it helps a lot that I see these guys at school and like just anywhere that I go around in Grove City, because sometimes it can be hard to be a light and like spread Jesus when you're alone. But when you have friends and other people who are doing it with you, it's a lot easier and it keeps you a lot stronger, and just being able to be a light to everyone in the world.
I don't know what verse it is, but iron sharpens iron. And I feel like that's the biggest thing that happens with this accountability, is that no matter what it is, if it's a struggle, maybe even if it's a high or a low, we're always going to sharpen each other, be better through it.
This is like the first time in my life I can say I've had a group of friends that have just had my back through everything, and I know I have all their backs. And I just know this is such a strong group, and even after years, like I can imagine all of us still having that same bond and all of it through Christ.
I'll say with the friendship thing is that I feel extremely blessed because I don't feel like many people can say they have 7 close friends. And it all starts with us having a relationship with God. That's what we all have in common. So since we all have that solid foundation in our faith, that it makes it easy for us to just stay that close with each other.
There's something that links all of us. We all come from different walks of life. And like for like 17 straight years of my life, I've been learning things about the Bible from pastors who are older than me. And it's just really cool to get to learn something from my peers. Like every week I try to have a takeaway of something that I can move forward and do better within the week. So it's really cool.
I think when I was growing up and like going through church, I like really went through the motions with it. Like I would go to church and like go to Wednesday night, but like I really didn't dive into the Bible. I like never read the Bible actually. But like when I started coming to this group, that's when my faith changed a bunch. And like when I actually got really serious, if I didn't join this group, I would not be where I am right now with my faith.
So in case you're wondering, they're sitting right over there. So give it up for those guys right there. Other than that, they're all here tonight. So, and again, I'm not going to tell you, if you watch them every day, and you watch everything, they're going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. You know, but what I love about that is they hold each other accountable. And I want to talk to you about a few things tonight. The first one is, why is accountability important? Well, the reason accountability is important is because the Bible tells us it is. If you go back to the stories of the real life stories of people that took place in the Bible and lived hundreds and thousands of years ago, there's almost a moment in every one of their lives where they're held accountable for something. It wasn't just David. James 5:16 says this, when I talk about the Bible telling us this: make this your common practice. Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you can live together, whole and healed. I don't know about you, but when I'm whole and healed, I'm living my best life as a Christian. All right? And God talks about that. They talked about in that group that there were times where like, dude, I'm struggling. Dude, so am I. And if you're not holding each other accountable, if you're not confessing to one another and you don't have that accountability piece, it's so difficult to walk through life. The second one is this. It says, 1 Thessalonians 5:11. So encourage each other and build each other up, just as you are already doing. This group isn't just about judgment. Accountability is not just about judgment. It's often about encouragement. All right? Proverbs 27:17, Connor referenced it in the video. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Now, I want to explain to you, that can be positively or negatively. If you're running with Christians and you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing and your friends are doing the things they're supposed to be doing, it sharpens you that way. If you're making bad choices and your friends are making bad choices, it sharpens you that way. Here's the second part, and this is crazy. Accountability produces growth. All right? So when we talk about why it's important, not just because the Bible tells us, but because it produces growth. Growth is often painful. How many of you guys, when you were growing up, ever got growing pains, right? In your legs as you were growing, right? I mean, yeah, I got them. And growth is sometimes painful. So the next part is, who should I let hold me accountable? Who should be that guy? Someone who will tell you, here's some qualities I'm going to give you. Someone who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. We all have friends that will tell us what we want to hear. We have friends who will tell us what we need to hear. And that was referenced in that video. Like, you know, they came to me and they had a hard conversation with me. They didn't tell him what he wanted to hear. They told him what he needed to hear. Someone who will always speak the truth, whether you like it or not. Reality. They're going to tell you the truth. Not someone who will always agree with you just to make you happy. We all have friends like that, and are like, sure, I think that looks cute on you. Sure, I don't think you look bad in that. Sure, you're cool. You know, whatever it does, whatever it is. They'll tell you what you want so you can hear it. They're not telling you the truth. Nathan had one of the hardest assignments in history. Go before the king. Tell him God knew what he had done. David already knew that. And then to have to tell him, these are your punishments. If you think about what he said, if you look at the history of the family of David from that point on, there was a lot of bloodshed in that family. And Nathan was the court prophet. He served in the court of the king himself. There were several different kinds of prophets in those days. But odds are Nathan either lived close to or in the palace with King David. His family, if he had one, lived in the palace. He was the court prophet. It was his job oftentimes to give direct messages from God to David. He would later serve under King Solomon. And there's a really cool part of this I'm going to tell you at the end about Nathan and David's relationship. I want to ask you though, if you're sitting in here tonight, or if you're watching online, who is that person in your life? Do you have that person who will hold you accountable? Do you have that person who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear? Have you ever thought about having that person in your life? For some of you, you're in middle school and you probably haven't even thought about that. Real friends always speak truth to each other. That's reality. How do you decide who that person should be? It is someone you develop a relationship with that you know you can trust, that's not going to spill your secrets. And that's really hard as teenagers. One of the things, and I was talking with David Morrison last week as we walked out after these guys shot this video, at no point do you hear them rap what the other one's struggles were. We're all struggling with something. There was this one time I was struggling, and these guys they never ratted each other out. They confided in each other. They trusted in each other. And like Mike said, that's going to be something that bonds them for a really long time. I don't even think they caught that in the video. They were just talking. And we have some really great outtakes about how bad of a Madden player Dennis is and how big Thatcher's feet are, and there's a whole bunch of other things, you know. But Thatcher's a size 15, in case you wanted to know. But he's 6'5", or 6'4", so it's okay. But I want you to think about that, right? I have those people in my life. Ironically, 2 of them are named David. I don't know why, whether that ties to the scripture or anything like that. One of them was my best friend from college. His name is Dave Budd. Dave and I just actually had lunch this past week. And Dave just had a moment where he had to call me. And it's funny because he and his wife will have conversations. And if his wife knows I'm in agreement with her, and she may not have talked to me, but she knows she thinks she knows what I'm going to say, why don't you call Matt and see what he says? So recently, Dave had the opportunity to change jobs. Wasn't really happy where he was. There were some things in his job that were giving him some duties. Dave is a doctor, all right? And he had another organization come to him, offer him a lot more money, 3 more weeks of vacation. The hours he wants, because Dave, while we're the same age, Dave got married a little later in life. He got married after middle school. So his kids are just now 8th and 9th grade. And his schedule now is where he doesn't have to rush out of work. He can get and do work after their games. He can get to their basketball games and do all those kind of things. Both of his kids are really great athletes, really great students. So Courtney tells Dave, call Matt and see what he'd say. Knowing full well, you have to understand Dave doesn't like change. It wasn't that Dave couldn't see that it was an easy choice. He doesn't like change. And so Dave called me and we sat on the phone for like an hour and a half, weighing options, having conversations. I'm like, dude, you know what you need to do? Yeah, I do. So do it. I don't know. Dave, I love you. You're my best friend. You've been my best friend for almost 30 years. If you don't do this, you're an idiot. Were literally the words that came out of my mouth. I texted his wife after we got off the phone, and she was still at work. She works in urgent care. She's a nurse practitioner. And I said, he's supposed to be signing the contract tomorrow. And if he doesn't, call me. She said, thank you. I knew he'd listen to you. I'm not going to steer him somewhere that's not good for him. I'm not going to steer him somewhere that I don't think is in the best interest of his family and his wife. I'm not going to do that. We've been best friends for almost 30 years. The other one is Pastor David Morrison. Now, David and I have a much different relationship. David and I have been on staff together. And David and I don't hang out all the time because, again, we're just different worlds. I have a senior in high school and a junior in college, and he has a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a 4-year-old. Am I right? Right on the money, right? And so, but David and I's relationship's a little different. But, you know, we talk about encouraging each other. Do you know what I send David every Sunday before he preaches in big church? You know what I send him? And he can confirm this here. I send him this incredible, positive encouragement every time. Do you know what it is? Don't suck. That's what I send him. Right? But that's our friendship. That's how we work. But I know in my own life, if there was something going on and my wife was concerned about something, these would be the first 2 people my wife would call. And they would be the first two people to come and slap me upside the head and show up at my house and say, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What are you thinking? That's not okay. This is, or if it was something good, dude, why are you hesitating on this? They would be the first guys. And I have to be honest with you, I'm going to leave with this story because I've been accountability partners for guys through the years, and I've got guys who are my accountability partners, and sometimes as friendship change, accountability partners change. So I was on staff in a church, and I had another friend who was on staff in a church. And this is the time I failed in accountability. And to this day, it hurts me when I share this story. But this is the importance of having someone who holds you accountable and someone who speaks truth to you. So over the course of time, I've been to my friend's office a couple times. He'd been to my office. Over the course of time, it had gotten back to me through some channels that there were some concerns about my friend and his secretary. This is a pastor. And I'm talking, we could talk real life stuff. We had talked real life stuff for several years, this guy and I had. And there was one day we were meeting for lunch, and I went to his office, and I saw an interaction with him and his secretary, and it just, you know, I don't know, maybe it's an old guy saying, didn't pass the smell test. Didn't look right. And I can remember going home and talking to my wife, and I said, I need to confront him. I need to ask him. I need to talk to him. I need to speak truth to him. I need to ask him the tough question. And I can remember in my mind, but what if I'm wrong? What if I accuse one of my friends of something that isn't true? I could cost myself one of my closest friends, one of my confidants, one of my accountability partners. I could cost everything in this friendship if I don't do it, if I don't have the hard conversation. And I'd love, or if I do have the hard conversation, if I do this, it could cost me everything. And here's the reality. I didn't do it. And the concerns were valid, and they were right. And all of those things that I thought was going to cost me my friendship with that friend, cost me my friendship with that friend. Not because I did it, but because I didn't do it. His life drastically changed. My life drastically changed. Our paths went completely different ways. And it was all because I didn't have the courage to have the hard conversation. And yes, sometimes having the hard conversation may cost you your friend. But in the end, if you have the hard conversation and you help them to wake up and step out of it, one, I believe God will eventually restore that relationship to some level. Two, it may keep them, because this didn't just affect him, it affected the woman he was with and her family, and it affected his family. It affected a lot of people. It affected the people in his church. It affected the people that they were friends with. It affected people. And to be honest with you, it's really hard for me sometimes when I think about that. Now, the cool thing is, both of those marriages survived that. And my friend has done the things he needed to be restored, and he's back in full-time ministry, and he and his wife serve the church, and it's really cool. But I think about how much pain could have been avoided if I would have had the guts to stand up in front of somebody. See, we all need 6 men in our lives to hold us accountable. Now, here's what's really cool. This is the coolest part. I learned this. I didn't know this before I studied this. David and Bathsheba went on to have 4 more sons, I believe. They had 4 sons, and the third one, guess what they named him? Nathan. They named him Nathan out of the respect they had for the man who had the courage to stand before the king and talk to him about what he had done wrong, to have the hard conversation. I think that's pretty cool. The man who had probably the most difficult conversation in King David's life, he would later name one of his sons after him. That's pretty cool. So, as you guys get ready to go to small groups, You're going to ask some questions about accountability. You have people like that in your life. Have you ever thought about that? Those kind of things. One of the things I want you to do, don't just say, oh, I want you to be my accountability partner because you're my best friend. Best friends aren't always the best accountability partners. David and Morrison and I aren't best friends. We're good friends, but we're not best friends. All right? And you need to be able to have people who hold conversations, the difficult conversations with you. And you need to pray and ask God who that person is in your life. Right now, if you're younger, it might be your parents. It might be mom and dad. And you might have to trust them, and that's really hard when you're a teenager. For some of you, you're a little bit older, and you need that group of guys or girls that come around you and hold you accountable. That's the reality. But you need that person in your life who will always speak truth to you. Always. Let me pray with you guys. Lord, thanks so much for all that you do for us. Thanks for being an awesome God. Lord, thanks for loving us so much. And you showed us not only when people were successful in the Bible, you showed us when they failed in the Bible. And you showed us how accountability works. And you showed us how repentance works. And you showed us how forgiveness works. But Father, I pray for each one of these students. I thank you for this group of guys over here to my right that have figured it out, how to do life together and have real life conversations that aren't always easy. Father, I pray for each one of these students in this room and each adult in this room that they would find that person that will hold them accountable in every walk of their life. Have the hard conversations. Lord, I pray that you would make it clear to them who that should be. We love you. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. Small groups. Other small groups, all right. Middle school guys, we're going out to the hallway. High school guys.